Okay, Jamie, you want to do lights and recommendations?
Let's do some lights.
What's your green light?
My green light this week, and it's a hard one for me to share, is TMZ.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I would never support TMZ, 30 Mile Zone. Their kind of invasive ways that they do paparazzi. However, we have TMZ to thank for some pretty big revealing scandals in the last year, including, we found out that Heisman Trophy candidate Jameis Winston from Florida State was being investigated for sexually abusing a fellow student. We got the audio clip of the LA Clippers owner, Donald Sterling, making racist remarks, which opened up a whole dialogue about the industry. And then this past week, they published the video, and they actually originally broke the Ray Rice story in the NFL of him abusing his, at the time, fiance. They released the video this week of showing the actual inside the elevator on which he knocked out his fiance in Atlantic City. And then, because prior to that, Ray Rice had only gotten a 2-game suspension and a lot of controversy because people felt like that wasn't fair. You use pot, you're suspended for a season. You hit a woman, you're suspended for 2 games. And so this video came out because of TMZ, and he's now been suspended from the Ravens and hopefully will lose his contract for the whole year. So TMZ does a lot of sketchy stuff.
Sure.
They're renowned for paying janitors, paying garbage people, paying security personnel at hotels for video, for footage. It's the reason we got the Beyonce and the elevator with Solange and Jay-Z. So a lot of celebrities have talked about they do not feel safe in dressing rooms. They do not feel safe anywhere because of TMZ's tactics. However, you have to kind of give TMZ some credit for revealing some really staunch behavior that needed to be addressed.
Sure. It's a good look, TMZ, when you're uncovering stuff that people need to see instead of uncovering stuff that people don't really need to see but exploits others.
I know. And how weird is it that we're getting our investigative journalism from TMZ and not, the Washington Post or the Los Angeles Times?
It's called capitalism, Jamie Golden. That's what it is. It's
Wow.
driving it. Good for them. My green light is there's a little company out of California called Apple. And Jamie Golden, it just blew my head apart yesterday. I make no bones about it. I love it. The watch, the phone, I want it all. I'm planning my finances about how to be able to buy all of it when it's available. It's amazing. I love it. Yeah. It's funny because I have a Fitbit. It's like a little fitness tracker thing that I wear. And I invested in something called a coin last year on Kickstarter, which is basically it's one credit card that you can load all of your credit cards onto. And like in one fell swoop, both of those things are essentially obsolete. And I'm fine with it. I'm so fine with it.
Yeah. Do you think Fitbit, that they were sitting around, or Pebble, like they were sitting around their boardroom watching the Apple event going, so who wants to buy lunch?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Especially because Fitbit, because they just had to recall like a bunch of their stuff because it was causing skin rashes, like the material they used. So it's like I think they knew, and now like they had poured the gasoline, and they were watching that keynote, and they were like ready to strike the match and just burn the whole thing down.
Yeah. Here's what I said, and I said this on Twitter, and I want to say this to everyone listening. I am a cake pop baker. That is one of my sources of income, and I am going to need to sell 375 cake pops in order to. So I need everyone to go to jamiesweetrevenge.com and place your orders so that I can buy this phone and watch that will make me a better person.
Do it.
Yeah.
What's your red light?
My red light this week. All right. And I know a lot of you love Taylor Swift. And by love Taylor Swift, I mean love Taylor Swift. Like have maybe started letters on your computer to her.
Sure.
That's how much you love her. And I've dropped it like it's hot in my dining room listening to Shake It Off. Like, I love that song. But I'm kind of over Taylor Swift feigning innocence. She's 24, almost 25 years old. She's been in the business for almost a decade. She understands how the world works. She is on the cover of Rolling Stone for the October issue. And there's a great article. And I think it's fantastic. So it's definitely read. We'll link to it. But it's a fantastic read about kind of her journey and kind of how her life is led in terms of security. For example, she bought an apartment in New York for $15 million and then bought the apartment next to it for $5 million to house her security team.
Wow.
That's how intense her life is. Says she has not driven alone in a car in 5 years because she cannot, because of safety concerns. But she also acknowledges that I chose this life. There's no complaint there. This is the life I chose. I'm very grateful for the life. So there's some really great things. So my red light is actually because she talks a lot about privacy and how sometimes she really craves privacy and craves times when people are not talking about her or conversing about her. And then in the same article, she throws an enormous amount of shade to a famous female artist that she has written a song about. So let me explain to you, Taylor, if you don't want people talking about you and gossiping about you, which were her actual words in the article, that she did not want this to become an issue of gossip, maybe you don't write songs about people, male or female, and then have everyone speculate for days. And for those who don't know, she wrote a song called Bad Blood, and it's about a major female artist that she realized they were not friends and that they were really enemies, and that this artist tried to kind of steal staff from her when her arena tour and those sort of things. What was great is a lot of speculation came about, like, who is it? Is it Demi Lovato? Is it Miley Cyrus? And then yesterday, just a few hours after the article was released this week, Katy Perry tweeted, "Watch out for the Regina George in sheep's clothing."
Boom. Shots fired.
And I loved it. And so, Taylor, you're precious and you do the most adorable music, but don't pretend that you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, man. It's just like everything. She's a very calculated person, and she's smart to construct a lot of things with a lot of vagaries in them that then kind of propels it forward in terms of conversation and speculation and who's she talking about, what you do, blah, 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 blah. Like she's genius at all that. But it just rings hollow when you're like, I had to spend $20 million to maintain my product. It's like, okay, well, you had $20 million to spend. You had $20 million to spend towards that end of privacy. I have a problem thinking that you have to drive with other people places. I don't feel sorry for you.
Yeah, no, we don't. So red light to that. But listen, Taylor, you want to act like a grown-up and not throw shade in weird articles? Like, I'm all in. I'm all in for you and being on your team.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the complaining and like, do you think the complaining is calculated, or do you think this is like the last vestiges of her normal like interactions with people, and like she's coming to terms with that she's never going to have stuff like that? Or do you think it's a calculated maneuver to complain about stuff?
I really think there's an innocence there. Like, I think she really does love cats and loves big candles. And like the article is almost this kind of weird dichotomy of a very articulate woman who speaks very well about why she doesn't date because dating is difficult. And, you know, she's very self-aware.
Sure.
And then it's the other side of, I like soft pretzels. Like, it's this weird, like and she's very control of her business. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so it's just a very strange, I don't think it's for her. I think she's just pretending that, well, people really love me if I'm innocent. So I need to maintain. She's not going the way of Ariana Grande, who said, yeah, I'm going to sing about sex all day long on this album because I want to be considered sexy. Taylor Swift is like, that's not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is innocence. But I think let's not pretend that you're something that you're really not.
So do you think the shade throwing is innocence in a way of like, I'm genuinely hurt by this? Or do you think it's like, I'm going to do this and it's going to build a lot of buzz for this article?
Oh, I think it's going to build a lot of buzz. Okay. Oh yeah. You don't put a song. I mean, when you're writing songs and you're putting a song on an album, you're very intentional about, oh yeah, like this one's going to bring, I mean, cause it just seems, she's intentional about this is going to cause a lot of it. Now, how fun would it be if behind the scenes we find out that Katy Perry and Taylor Swift are texting going, it worked. We're amazing.
That would be tremendous. I feel like that's going to be a storyline on Nashville next year. Nashville's the prism through which I understand all of this, so I just kind of rearrange the pieces. I'm like, oh, she's Juliette Barnes in this situation, and she's Raina. That makes sense.
Well, and it does make sense because the issue really, when it all comes down to, because Taylor Swift was adorable, she was like, I want to make sure that everyone knows this is not about a guy. Taylor Swift, it's about John Mayer, so let's not act like it's not about John Mayer. That's your problem.
Kudos. My red light, what was my green light about? Was it about Apple?
It was.
Red Light is also about Apple, but in the sense of how people interact with it. When I threw up my Twitter feed yesterday during the keynote, everyone was breaking news, like little sketchy outfits and like individual people. I'm like, who is getting their news from you, individual person who is talking about the iWatch in a not sophisticated way? Why do you feel compelled to do that? Secondly, everyone feels compelled to make a joke, say something snarky or something like hyperbolic. I don't know. I just wish people could. Sometimes it's like sometimes less is more, and just engage with the story and be cool with it. Like don't talk about how your Android has been better than this. All like relax, Android people, calm down.
Yeah, like I don't understand that. Maybe I'm naive because I always think, well, an Android's a great phone too. Like it's a great smartphone. I have an iPhone because the rest of my life is Apple. Like It just fits in perfectly, and I really love Apple design. Like I don't understand why it has to be we're stupid or you're stupid.
Right.
Again, I feel like that's a Taylor Swift approach. So if y'all are doing that, welcome to your leader.
What's the political adage? Like when you're on the attack, that means you're losing, and when you can talk about the issues, that means you're in front. I think that says it all, Jamie Golden.
I think that says it all. So kudos to us that are winning.
Yeah, that's mine. What's your recommendation?
Okay, so my recommendation this week, I have been watching the red carpet like since I was a little girl. Like truly, like that was. Award shows were exciting, and I loved movies mainly because I never got to see movies, and so this was my one chance on TV to see movie stars because we had 4 channels. And so watching the Emmys or the Oscars, and I still to this day love the red carpet and live tweeting about it. And one of those fixtures, of course, was Joan Rivers, and I love Joan Rivers because I love a woman who can be snarky and funny and smart and who can do it into her 80s. So obviously she passed away this past week. And so one of the recommendations I have is the documentary that you can watch for free on Netflix is Joan Rivers, A Piece of Work. It was a 2010 documentary about kind of her behind the scenes look at her career. She was 75, 76 years old at the time that it was made, and kind of how hard she was working even into her late years. What I love about it is not even just about a kind of a behind the scenes of her. It's a really testament to how do we age in this world when we start to feel not as much of value? How do we handle aging as a whole? How do we handle showbiz, relationships? Like the part, particularly, she was in a Comedy Central roast, and she talks at length about how painful that was to be a part of. And she said, it's so silly that I've been in this business for this many years and that I care. Like, why would you care what Nick Kroll says about you? But she did. And it very much was a painful time. So it's interesting to see this behind the scenes. It got 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's it's got some language in it, of course, but it's definitely worth adding to your queue.
Okay. I saw an episode of her on Louis, and it kind of spoke to those same things. It talked about having context with yourself and being realistic with yourself and being okay with that realism, regardless of your age or your situation, everything like that. So I never really loved her, but I think you have to respect what she's done. And even more so when you see the outpouring of respect people in her, like her peers gave, it's hard to ignore that.
Right.
My recommendation is a little show called Sons of Anarchy. Jamie, this is not a show you're going to like.
I know, right?
Jamie's mom, you are super not going to like this. But it's a very highly it's widely watched. It's available on Netflix for free, seasons 1 through 5. Season 6, I think you might have to pay or be able to see it somewhere online with a subscription. But season 7 started last night. It's an excellent show. It's not highbrow in the sense of Mad Men, but it's not lowbrow or boring in the sense of network shows. It's Shakespearean in scope. It's violent. It's pulpy. It always deals with high stakes, and it deals with the main character played by Charlie Hunnam. It's a good show. It keeps you watching. I've been on board since I think the second season, and this will be the final season. So definitely check it out. I recommend it if you have the stomach for that kind of stuff.
Well, can I tell you what? I saw an NPR had a headline this week talking about Sons of Anarchy because it was coming back. And the headline was, Sons of Anarchy succeeds as a soap opera geared towards guys.
That's 1,000% what it is. 1,000% what it is.
let me tell you, Jax Teller, played by Charlie, he's got some forearms that I wouldn't mind hanging from my rearview mirror. Those things are fantastic.
He's kind of a poor man's Hemsworth, maybe, especially when you
and
see him
sometimes you
off.
want it. Sometimes you want that. You want that greasy.
Sometimes you
Hemsworth.
got to buy the store brand, you know, guys. Like sometimes you can't buy that label.
That Equate Hemsworth is just as good as the brand name Hemsworth.
But check it out if you don't mind violence. And if you do, probably steer away.